What's up, everybody? How's it going? I wanted to take a quick look at the injury report today because there's quite a bit writing on the injury report going into this upcoming game because for both teams at the moment it looks pretty significant. And obviously tomorrow we're going to get a better idea of who's actually going to be able to play in this game. But I wanted to take a look at the initial report. This came out late yesterday. I was really busy yesterday. I didn't get a chance to post about it. But if you take a look at the injury report for both sides, this could swing the game. This absolutely could swing the game in New Orleans this weekend. And it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough for Seattle to go into New Orleans, a place where historically they have had trouble. When most teams have trouble there, honestly. It's not a place you just roll into and win. And while we have some injury issues, I think the Saints probably have it a little bit worse right now. And the question that I have as we gain more information today and tomorrow is, what Saints team are we going to be playing on Sunday? So let's start with the Seahawks here real quick. Now, the last couple games, the Seahawks have really kind of evaded any major injury losses. They've come out on Wednesday and Thursday with a long injury report, and then by the time they get to Friday, it's pretty clear. And they only have a couple players out, and there's no big consequence for the players who are out. That may happen again this week. Hopefully it does, because you look at this injury report, it doesn't look terrible, admittedly, but there is some cause for concern. Rashad Penny coming off his breakout game, 9 yards a carry, 2 touchdowns, 150 yards, did not practice, but it seems minor. It seems insignificant. Apparently Penny didn't even mention it at all when he had a media interview, so it's indicative of the fact that we're probably just giving him the day off. We're trying to be very careful with him. We've certainly been down that road with Rashad Penny before, and I, at this point, have no reason to be concerned that he's not going to play, but he didn't practice, so worth noting. Also not really worth noting in terms of, like, missing the player would be Austin Blythe and Gabe Jackson. Both those guys seem like they're just taking days off, and in the case of Blythe, it's a personal matter, and I'm not concerned about either of those guys missing the game. I will say, though, the Seahawks are so down bad for center depth. We did pick up Joey Hunt yesterday and put him on the practice squad. So it seems like there's at least a little bit of a concern at center right now. So that's all good. Daryl Johnson looks less good. The word on Daryl Johnson, who, I mean, I'm not going to exaggerate anything, but looked like he was playing okay. Ankle injury. I don't expect him to play this week, and probably for a couple future games as well. It's kind of unfortunate because we're already a little bit hard pressed to get a good amount of depth out there at edge. And he was a guy who was out there. He wasn't a great player. He wasn't playing amazing, but he was out there. And with him out, it's not going to be necessarily easy to find a replacement on the roster. You might have to just force like Vi Jones out there. You might have to force Nick Bellore out there. I don't know. But we need a fourth edge. And with Darrell Taylor doing what he's doing, you really need the fourth edge. You can't just have a shallow rotation right now with Darrell Taylor doing what he's doing. So unfortunate there. I don't expect him. Don't know about Quentin Jefferson. He showed up with an elbow injury. He was, we'll talk about this tomorrow, but he was the only player on that defensive line who was getting any kind of pressure on Goff, it would seem. He was not the only guy who played well, don't get me wrong. Some of the other guys like Shelby Harris were playing good against the run, but Quentin Jefferson actually disrupted Goff a couple times, which is more than pretty much anyone else on the defensive line can say. So we'll monitor that. I have no idea if that's a real concern for Sunday or not, but he did not practice, so worth monitoring. Justin Coleman had limited participation, so I guess that's a step in the right direction. That shows that he's probably on his way back. Really good chance that he makes his way back for this game. And look, Coleman, I don't think he has a lot left. I think he's kind of the definition of a washed-up veteran who you just throw out there because you don't have anybody else, and he has some familiarity with your team and your teammates, etc. But Kobe Bryant, even though he played a better game against the Lions, yeah, I had a look at some of the coverage numbers, and it's still not good. He is still getting picked on a lot. So if we could have another nickel corner who could try to take some of the pressure off Kobe having to play constantly, I don't think it's a bad thing. So I'm hoping Coleman recovers. Damien Lewis also limited in practice, but I'm sure he's going to play. Honestly, most of the time it seems like if you're limited on Wednesday, you're going to play on Sunday, unless something gets worse. So I think Damien Lewis will play. Derek Young was limited, but he doesn't really play either way, so it hardly matters. And we also had full participation for Penny Hart, which I think he got sick, an illness of some kind, so that's whatever. But Phil Haynes, full participation. Joey Blunt, full participation, both significant. There was some concern about the Phil Haynes injury keeping him out. The fact that he's a full participant on Wednesday indicates that he's probably okay. And Joey Blunt may be working his way back towards being able to play, which is big because we have a safety problem right now. Josh Jones, somebody needs to replace that guy. So that's good news. At this point, it's hard to be concerned about those guys being anything other than ready to go on Sunday. Looking at the Saints side of things, though, it's not good. It's really not good. I mean, Jameis Winston alone, their starting quarterback, and I know Jameis Winston is not the best quarterback in the league, but them not having Jameis potentially is relatively devastating. So Jameis Winston, let's start there, did not practice, and we know he didn't play last week, so very good chance he doesn't play this week. They've got Michael Thomas, also did not practice. I'm not getting the indication from what I'm hearing that he's going to play. So Michael Thomas could be out very easily. Peyton Turner, an important piece of their depth on their defensive line. I know he's not a starter because of Cameron Jordan and Davenport. Those two guys are their primary defensive ends. But Peyton Turner, important part of that depth, did not practice. So you have to wonder about his availability. And you also have P.J. Williams, who has been a key player in their secondary so far this year, played a good amount of snaps. He's also did not practice, so that does some real damage to what they have in their secondary. And probably their main backup guard, Calvin Throckmorton, did not practice either. And he's a guy who isn't necessarily going to start because of Pete and, I can't remember the name of the other guard off the top of my head, but Throckmorton is not a starter, but he did play almost 1,000 snaps last year, so this is a guy they have been known to depend on. And he doesn't seem like he's a particularly good player, admittedly, but it is kind of a loss because if you look at the rest of the injury report, Andrews Pete is limited with a concussion, so no guarantee that he's able to play. So if you're losing Pete and Throckmorton, that's a big blow to your offensive line. And while we're here talking about the offensive line, Ryan Ramczyk, I'm sure he's going to play, but he did get a rest day and was limited in practice. And while we're talking about a guy like a P.J. Williams, Marcus May also limited in practice. Again, if he's limited now, he'll probably be ready to go by game time. But you can kind of see how these injuries stack on top of themselves. And let's not forget, Alvin Kamara limited, Jarvis Landry limited, Taysom Hill limited. That's a big chunk of their offense that's in limbo right now. We don't know if they're going to be able to play or not. Carl Granderson, another one of their depth defensive linemen, is fully practicing, so he's probably good. But you look at this injury report for the Saints in here, and it's significant, and we're going to learn a lot about this game in the next 2 days based on who's practicing. They're potentially missing their starting quarterback, starting running back, 2 starting receivers, starting gadget player, I guess you could call him, Taysom Hill, a couple of at least 1 starter, maybe 2 in the secondary, and a decent chunk of their interior offensive line. I think the other guard is Ruiz, by the way, Cesar Ruiz. So, significant, very significant, and this is going to be a difficult game for us, no doubt. I'll talk more about it in the coming days. I'll be streaming tonight over on the Hawks Nest channel talking about it. But this Saints team that had some hype going into this year, that looked like they were going to be pretty good, It's not looking ideal at the moment for them. They're maybe not going to have some of their key guys. So we'll see what they end up having when it spins around on Friday. But as of right now, there's a lot riding on these upcoming injury reports. So let me know what you guys think. I'm going to get out of here. More Seahawks talk later, streaming tonight over on the Hawks Nest channel near the end of Thursday Night Football, as usual. Hope to see you guys there. Go Hawks, and we'll see if this holds up.